Knobloch's Dance presents Dance Behind the Screen, Process Production and Social Media. Hey knowers, welcome to our podcast. We are Knobloch's Dance, a social media-based company. We strive to say no to the box. We connect interdisciplinary art, technology, and artists to re-envision the process of art making and sharing.
Hey everyone, this is your co-host YeaJean Choi. We have one more co-host,
Reyna Mondragon.
We got to interview Colby
Calhoun.
Yay!
So Colby graduated with a BA from Texas Women's University. He is a dance and theater teaching artist and dance theater performance artist. He is the rehearsal director for the Daniel Georgia Dance Group and a collaborator with Very Good Dance Theater.
Yeah, he is the creator of the first annual gay show, which premiered in Dallas. So on this episode, you can see his journey of this festival. Also, he shared what does queer dance means to him and advice to the younger version of Colby. And he also said what is no to the box means to him. So stay tuned.
And listen, it is a really fun interview, so stay tuned again. Just stay tuned and listen. Colby, thank you so much for being here today. For some of our listeners who haven't met you yet or don't know who you are yet, tell us who Colby Calhoun is.
A lame loser. I always think it's hard. I always feel bad talking about myself. I think it's, because I was taught not to be egotistical. Maybe that's the thing. But anyway, who am I? I am a queer person. I'm 24.79 years old. I am a dancer. Sometimes I feel like a dancer. I'm a dance theater artist. I'm a theater maker. I'm a mover, a lover, a shaker, a asshole. I live in Dallas, Texas, United States of America. Yike. I don't know. Yeah, that's who I am. I wish I had more of a concrete answer, but I guess it's better that I don't because it's more fun to figure that out, I guess.
Yeah,
Nice.
for sure.
We know many artists have been struggling through, COVID-19. So we wonder, how have you and the company you're a part of, DGDG? I miss you, Daniel, by the way. So the DGDG been holding up?
Yeah, I mean, it's been rough, I think, for all of us in general, mostly because initially we realized that, to keep people safe, I think the whole thing is that, we realized that our responsibility as theater makers is not to just say, fuck the rules and get together and have rehearsal anyway, because we were supposed to have a show here at the end of March or the beginning of June, we were supposed to do it. And we are transitioning that project to film. And luckily, a lot of the stuff that I've been involved with or am doing currently has been able to transition into sort of a virtual or online space. But I think all of us are worried about what is happening next, right? It's after this project, when can we do another one? We were supposed to have, or we still do technically have a show again around Halloween time, but we don't know if that's going to happen. A lot of us are teachers, whether it's dance or, teaching in public education another way with DGGG. So we're all sort of going through that loss of trying to connect to our students and also realizing that we can't really be there for them, but also knowing what sort of resources we are supposed to be able to offer to them and how hard this is for them. So I think as artists, it's been really rough because our work has never just been about us. Mm-hmm. And it's always been about, community or reflecting humanity or society. And it's really hard when it's not just an isolated event. It's something that is so crazily widespread. And I think that kind of sucks. It sucks to just see so many people hurting. And usually the thing we would run to is making work, to like do work, to help people feel better, to help ourselves feel better. And it's really difficult to do that right now. It's almost impossible, but we're trying to find a way to translate it into this virtual space.
Right. You also, you and Danielle also have been giving classes through the
Yes.
YeaJean Instagram Live. So can you share what is your intention behind of that classes?
Yeah, I think because luckily Danielle and I live very close together. We live like 2 minutes apart, and then the house that I live in, our rehearsal space is in the backyard of. So we have the studio there. So we've basically been sheltering in place together, which has been really nice because we still get to see each other and sort of have these like production meetings because we're basically living together, connected by a building in my backyard.
Yeah.
And I think the first week was like, oh my God, what do we do? Like, what do we do? And we take Saturday ballet class at Eastfield usually together. And so I think it was just like, this is one thing that we used to have, either like people are running around during the week doing whatever, but we would all be together Saturday morning to do a class. And Danielle asked me, hey, do you want to co-teach a class? We could pick whatever day is best for you, but maybe like a weekly company class just to keep us moving. And I think really it was, before it was anything, was just to dedicate ourselves to continuing to move and continuing to connect to, you know, each other, to our craft, to other people. Because it could have been really easy just to be like, okay, well, we're not doing anything. And I think that would have been not as great.
But moving forward, I also want to bring up that you created the first annual gay show in Dallas, Texas, which was super successful. Can you tell us why was that important to you? And is there going to be a second annual gay show? And what are you going to do with that? Or is there another project in the midst of its work? Or
Yeah. So first annual gay show. I mean, I don't want to say it was a fluke, but I mean, it kind of felt like that. Because really, all I did was have an idea, and I said, you know, I want to make it, and I want to do it. And I asked Danielle, will you please help me make this thing? And thankfully, she said yes. And then it was just like the response we had was so overwhelmingly positive, and it was like more than I ever thought any people would ever really care. Because again, I don't know, maybe I was just taught not to love myself. I don't know. But I just thought like, okay, we'll make this show and maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't be, and people will clap and then they'll say yay, and then it will go away. But I mean, people came back. Like, we did the show I think 6 times, and people came like 3, 4, 5 times to come see it over and over again. There are, you know, people that I've seen like in the neighborhood that have been like, oh, I saw that show, that was like so amazing. And like a bunch of people just reaching out, especially like queer people and queer people of color, being like, I never thought I would see my story on the stage like that in such an honest way. And to be honest, it started from, it was at the Festival of Independent Theaters, which is a theater festival that happens every summer at the Bathhouse Cultural Center. And DGDG has done it a couple times. Prior, I was in it with DGDG for a show about men, and I was in it with DGDG again for just girly things. And I told Danielle, I would like asked her if she was submitting. She said no, and I said that I might want to. And really, it, to be honest, kind of came from me being a sarcastic asshole and taking a notice, right? Because like 2020 now all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, let's cast trans people, let's cast queer people, let's have narratives about these people that we shunned for so long. right? And even now, it's like representation for queer people is not nearly what it could or should be.
You are listening to Navox Dance.
But I noticed, right, that was like, so there was the 2020, it was like 2019 when we did that last year. And I was noticing, right, at the end of 2018, it was like all of a sudden I was like getting, you know, text messages and random Facebook messages from people. It's like, oh, we want like a non-binary person, or like a gender non-conforming person, or like we want to do like gender blind fashion. And it was just weird because it was not made by these queer people that they wanted to showcase. It was like by people who didn't have any part of that narrative. And it didn't seem like they wanted queer people to take charge of that narrative. It just seemed like they wanted to be included or profit off, you know, using this demographic. Right. And I think we all noticed that same thing happen in general with people of color. There was like only white people on TV. And then they were like, oh, we can make sassy Black women the new thing. And then after that, it was like, now we're going to use all these other demographics. And it happens over and over again. Right. But it's like, I realized, I was like, everybody's now making these gay shows. And I said, sarcastically, I was like, I just want to make the first gay show ever. It's going to be the first gay show. This is the first, because it's like, it seems like everyone's like, now we're doing the first gay show. I'm the first one to do it. I'm the gayest. And so I was like, that's what we're going to make. We're going to make that show the gayest show possible.
Right.
So it started sort of sarcastically. And then, you know, I got really into the project, and I realized there were a lot of friends that I have that, you know, trans people and queer people of color specifically, who have these stories and have these talents that don't have the opportunity other places, that, you know, can't really get cast and tell their story because nobody really wants to tell their story or show that side of that person.
Right.
And so, I mean, the process really came from when I did Show About Men, is because Danielle really turned the process over to us, and she said, write about yourself, write about, you know, being you. And there was something like so cathartic and powerful about standing on a stage and telling a bunch of strangers something so raw and so vulnerable about myself. And I mean, it really changed me, and I wanted to give other people that opportunity, but through this new lens in 2019 of being a queer person of color and being something that feels like such a minority, right? Is that like, okay, I'm a person of color and I'm also queer, and I also live in Dallas, Texas. And it's like such a small subsection of, you know, the global population, but our stories were so touching to so many people. I think that was the thing that surprised me so much.
What kind of feedback you received from the audience?
Yeah, I mean, so there was a part in the show where I pulled people up onto the stage and asked them just to tell the whole audience what they were afraid of. And like that at its core was like what the show was about. You know, sit on stage in front of a bunch of random people and tell somebody something that you're afraid of, and look back into people saying, that's okay, and I'm here for you, and I'm hearing you. And I think that just like watching people on stage, like realizing they had the permission to say something that scares them. At one of the shows, someone yelled out that they were afraid of being deported, and everyone was like floored. And I like, still, I can't believe that we made a space in which someone felt safe to like tell a room full of strangers that. And then obviously it's like, people sent messages, people came back multiple times. And then like financially, we had a Kickstarter, which we surpassed our goal by like a quarter of. We had, because our goal was I think $2,000, and we raised almost $2,500 so that we could pay everyone. In the press was really well received. Actually, Theater Jones named us Best Physical Theater of 2019 for that show. So, I mean, it was crazy. It was like our first breakout production, our first main stage production. And it was just, everyone was, I don't know, it was just so well received. It's so weird to me still.
This idea of like, you creating a space for people to say, or shout out, or like feel free or welcome to share what they are afraid of. why specifically that question? Like, how does it connect to you does it connect to you personally as a person of color in the LGBTQIA plus community? Is that something that you felt personally? I mean, this is a deep question, but I'm wondering because I feel like a lot of people are just so like surface level, passive about this kind of stuff, like, and they don't ask the questions that need to be asked because they're scared to hear the real answer. But it's real. It's like it's fucking real, and it's happening, and like we can't be ignorant and say, that. And I don't know what you're gonna say, but anyways, go ahead and say it.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. Yeah, thanks. I really feel like so much of what people do is motivated by fear. And I think a lot of people would be like, no, it's not. But I mean, really, if you think of, this idea of like homophobia or xenophobia or racism, it's like people are afraid that, someone that they don't know or don't agree with would take something from them. And I think for me, just like growing up, just because of how I grew up, I did so many things out of fear. I was like afraid that I was too white, and then I was afraid that I couldn't be too black because then people, wouldn't agree with that. I was afraid to be gay in front of my father, and then I was afraid to be, too gay in front of other people, or too straight and just seemed like I was faking, or too much of a man or too much of a woman. And I think still to this day, it's like almost everything I make, the first reaction is, I am afraid. I'm afraid of it. And, and it's not a great place. It's not where I want to be. I would love to not be afraid of all the work that I make. But I feel good to be able to say that, to be able to say, I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid it won't be good, or I'm afraid that it will be too good, and then I'll never be able to make something that good again. Or, and I think that a lot of the way that we end up, at least for myself, and this is really just a personal reflection, is like noticing a lot of the relationships I ruin with people is because I'm afraid. I'm just afraid whether of losing something or changing something. And a lot of times I sort of either overreact too fast or don't react at all because I'm terrified. I don't know, I just think it's something really powerful to be able to share with someone that like, I'm afraid of this. And just by saying that to someone, it's like there's a little bit of a burden lessened, because someone else could say, me too. Or someone could say, hey, you don't have to be afraid of that, right? Like, I'm afraid of spiders. Okay, sis, I'll kill a spider for you, and you don't have to be afraid.
Right.
I love that.
Just to clarify, I will not kill any spiders, but there's someone who will, right? It's that, like, if you tell someone that you're afraid of something, that person might not be afraid of it. They might be able to take that fear on for you. So I don't know.
What do you? Sorry, YeaJean.
No, I just said I love that. But before we go deeper, I think, Reyna, it's time to ask Flash for a question.
Ooh, okay. As we continue digging deeper, I'm gonna throw a curveball at you.
Flash 4.
What was the first dance you saw? Go.
The first dance I saw, you know what? I think the first thing that came to my mind, I don't remember what the first live dance I saw was, but I remember distinctly my first, like, seeing and viewing of a dance, like, understanding it was dance, was watching some girl from American Ballet Theater do The Dying Swan, and me standing in my room on YouTube before YouTube was good, like loading up this video that was like really choppy, and standing in my room and trying to do her arms.
Yeah.
And like hoping no one would come upstairs and find me. I hear like someone coming upstairs and I stop, and I'm like, I'm not doing this. But I mean, that's like the first idea of like me really seeing that and being like, I want to do that. I want to dance. That's dance. I want to dance.
Aw, that's cute.
That's awesome. And then also that kind of ties into this idea of like, what are you afraid of? Also, it's like you're hearing somebody come up the stairs and then you're like, no, I don't want to do this. It's like,
yeah,
it goes back into that. And I just want to thank you for talking about that question and bringing it up in your show, because, I'm also fearful of a lot of things, I am a Mexican American that my parents came to the United States for a better life, da 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 da, and then, for the longest time, I'm like, I am Mexican, but now as an adult, I'm like, there's a lot of me that's Mexican, but there's also a lot of me that's American. I grew up here.
Mm-hmm.
I've been here since I'm 6 years old, but it's not something that I openly talk about that because I'm afraid that I'm going to be judged. And so it's really awesome to hear that you created that environment in your show for not just the LGBTQIA plus community, but everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah. I think it was really important, like, to not only give everyone in the cast their own individual opportunity to share their truth. I mean, there were some things that cast members said that they had never said out loud, like to their family members who came and saw the show. There were like new discoveries about how people felt. But I think that I wanted to, make sure we gave that same opportunity to anyone that saw it, is that it wasn't just us doing our thing on stage, because I didn't want to further divide anything. I wanted to be like, hey, look, we are real people. We're all scared. And we're all joyful and we're all sad. And right, is that, like, I think it was really important to give that opportunity to everyone.
What does queerness mean to you, Colby?
Queerness means queerness. Yeah, I don't know. Queerness is like it's like very important to me, but really hard to define. Sort of in a way. I know what queerness is not. Right, queerness is not passiveness. Queerness is not just being gay or being a homosexual person, which those are great things. Right, but queerness is about queerness is an activity. Queerness is an action. Queerness is action in action. Queerness is about living in a way that is defiant.
So how do you center the LGBTQ plus community in your works then?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I don't think that I often, I don't know, I'm going to sound like an asshole, but I don't know if I often think about centering queer people, and especially queer people of color, in my work, because it's what I want to do already. Right. It's a perspective that in, some regards I come from. I know, like, being a biracial person and being a light-skinned person, that, gives me a lot of privileges and definitely a different perspective as a person of color from, someone else. But, like, I think really centering, queer people and queerness in my work is not hard, because I know that I have to make opportunities for myself. And there are, places where I don't have opportunity because of who I am. But if I make these opportunities for myself intrinsically, I have also made a place where I could make opportunities for other people in my community.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that sometimes I definitely have to stop and look. Something that I learned when I was in school, I was taking theater management, and just thinking about making a theater company or doing a nonprofit work or anything sort of like that reaches out to a community or focuses on centering community, is like, sometimes I do have to stop and look and ask myself, who's not included here? Like, who is not represented, or who doesn't have access to this? And sometimes I do find myself slipping towards certain perspectives of queerness, or certain perspectives of people of color or blackness. The only perspective I have as a person of color is as a mixed race Black person. Right. So it's like, I don't have the perspective of an Asian American or an Asian person or a Mexican American or, or a Latin person or a Spanish person or an African person. And those are all perspectives I think are worthy and important to tell. So sometimes I do have to stop back or, you know, sit back and say, who am I not including and how can we include those voices here? But I think really it just comes from being a person who values perspectives that aren't exactly mine.
Mm-hmm.
And then making friends with those people or like reaching out to those people to be included in my work.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to just put 10 me's up on a stage.
Right. It feels like
Oh.
you're in search of connections. And I
Yeah.
didn't mean to cut you off, YeaJean, but then it makes me, I'm excited to ask one more question. What advice do you have to choreographers out there who don't identify with the LGBTQ community? What advice do you have for them as they do work with, if they work with that community or other types of community? What advice do you have for them as they move forward in their choreographic process to think about while they're
Yeah, I would
collaborating?
say, first thing is, you know, reach outside of what you think reflects you is like the first thing, whether it's in casting, whether it's in, you know, actual choreographic process, whether it's in the actual movement that you're making. Do something that isn't you, you know, and see if you can adapt that or see if you can learn from that. I mean, if we're just doing the same shit that I already do with the same people that I already know the whole time, what am I learning and how am I growing? And maybe people don't want to learn and grow. I don't know. I do personally, but and I think that's like step one is reach past your field of vision, reach past your view. And then I think the second thing is to let people speak for themselves. I think the whole thing with doing First Annual Gay Show is I noticed there wasn't queer representation by queer people. There was a lot of queer stories given by straight white men, like, here, we're doing a show about you. You don't like it? What do you mean? Right? And still, especially in the theater community, I'm noticing like there will be theaters and then there'll be like the one show where it's like, oh, there's a bunch of brown and black people in this one, and then we'll go back to, you know, doing whatever we were doing before that. Thanks. Sorry. People are arriving. I don't know if you heard the doorbell. But yeah,
Yes,
again, I
artist.
think telling people to speak, like allowing people to speak for themselves is so important. Because if I want to include a perspective that's not mine, right, and then I've included this person that I'm like, oh, I'm representing this community now, and now I'm going to talk for them. Like, no, I have to like let them speak. I'll have to let them show their perspective. And I think that's why collaboration, like actual collaboration, not like, oh, I let you put an 8 count in my dance collaboration, but like opening up the process and saying, what do you think? What should happen next? What would you do? Like people to actually voice their opinion is like the way to do it.
Before we go to the next question, flash for second question.
Boom.
Flash forward.
If you had to recommend a resource to our audience, what would it be?
A resource. I think this is an Instagram page, but also a poet/author/performance artist. Their name is Alok V. Manan. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Sorry. But that's their Instagram account.
Colby, what advice do you have for the younger version of yourself? I know you cover a little bit, but just in general. It can be, you know, it doesn't have to be artist.
Yeah. Younger version of myself. Oof.
Maybe Colby.
I know. I would say just fucking do it. And literally fuck everyone else because everybody loves you anyway. I don't know. Really? Yeah, I would just say, I mean, again, I lived so much of my younger life in fear, whether that was like a social interaction of doing something, of being like something. And I would just say to, if I could like look at a younger me right now at literally any age, could have been me from yesterday, and I would just look myself in the eyes and be like, who fucking cares? Like, who cares? Who cares?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know what I got from spending so much energy on what I thought other people were thinking about me, you know?
That makes me wonder, of something else, it's what is something that you wish you had heard as in the younger version of yourselves?
Yeah, I don't know. That's sad.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, I really just wish, someone would have told me that I was valid, or that I was not normal. I never want to be normal, but like that who I was and what I wanted to be was allowed. I was allowed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I think that can connect with everybody or a lot of people.
Right.
If it doesn't connect with you, it probably does connect with you. You just don't know yet. But
Yeah.
they just don't know it connects to them yet. But no, yeah. I think that goes home for a lot of us, for sure.
Reyna, flash forward?
Yeah.
Ooh, flash forward. Here we go. Are you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Just before I even ask this flash forward question, I do want to bring up that, Colby, you were mentioned to be one of the best LGBTQ plus influencers
Yes.
in the North Texas. That your account.
Woo!
What? Okay, talk a little bit about that. What is that like? You're fabulous. You're representing. You're being the best version of yourself, and people are getting to witness this through social media.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. I never believe it when anybody tells me I'm doing a good job, or tries to tell me that I'm worth mentioning in a list like that. But I don't know. If y'all want to follow me on Instagram, it's at Colby Calhoun. But I don't know. I mean, I like my social media presence. It's me being a buffoon and then hyping myself up. And I mean, I guess that's something that I notice a lot of people don't do on social media. They're always like, oh, I gotta look pretty, or like, oh, I gotta make sure I pose the angle, which is great. I mean, I do that sometimes too. Look, I face-tuned my butt in a picture of my literal ass because I wanted it to look different. But I don't do that all the time, though. This is so real over here, just so everyone, all the listeners know. But yeah, I don't know. They put me on that list, and I said, okay, thank you. And I mean, I was glad to be featured as a part of my community. I thought it was funny because I don't, see myself as an influencer, but I guess a lot of people are like, oh, I love it because you just scream and say whatever you want. And so if you need to follow me for permission to scream and say whatever you want on the internet, here I am.
That leads me to our flash forward question.
Flash forward.
Do you think social media has a positive influence on the dance world? Yes or no?
A positive influence? I have to say no. I hate to be that girl. Like, I think that social media is a great opportunity and a great resource for a lot of art and dance and specific. But if we're talking about dance, all I see in social media and dance is like these 30-second clips of you doing some trick of a thing. I mean, it's like even professional companies now are just like, showing the best little clips of their work, or people are posting their little 1-minute noodle dance improv in their bathroom. And YeaJean's laughing because she knows. And like, all those are great things. I'm not gonna be like, don't do it, it's bad. I just don't care. I think we all do the work because it's about, deeper connection and deeper meaning. And I just don't think that social media has influenced that in a great way. I think it could. And I think in some cases it does. I definitely think social media has given me a wealth of resource and connection to people, but I don't know if it's influenced dance in a great way.
I was laughing because I agree.
Yeah.
I have been posting my Ooey Gooey improv for a while, and then I stopped it because I realized I create a work, or not even a work, I just create a video for social media. And then I realized I believe choreographers also needs practice, and then my practice getting wrong direction, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you're only practicing so you can video it, and then if it's good, you'll post it.
and then I can get more likes, and then that's satisfying.
Exactly.
One of our final questions is how do you say no to the box?
Dun dun dun.
How do I say no to the box?
Whatever the box means to you.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think sometimes I can't say no to it. I don't know.
I agree. That's our company name, but I agree with that.
I know sometimes you feel safe in your box, and that's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think when I am saying no to the box, it's because I'm intentionally deciding to do something that may or may not be comfortable. I'm intentionally deciding to go on stage even though I don't know if my choices are right, or I, make a choreographic choice because I think the process is cool, whether or not I think the dance actually looks good.
Yeah.
I think I say no to the box when I decide that it might not be good.
Yeah.
Flash forward.
So our final flash forward question. What is your
Reyna.
favorite social media platform?
I love Instagram. Instagram is everything to me. I just got a Twitter though, so I can't say Twitter yet because that's kind of chaos. Twitter is chaos. But I love Instagram because I just love to scroll through pictures. Sometimes I don't even look. I'm just like, yes. And then I secretly don't tell anyone, but I like to go scroll through my own Instagram sometimes just to see how pretty or funny I was. But I love Instagram.
I love scrolling through your Instagram.
I love your Instagram.
Okay, good.
The ballet video you posted recently. The ballet video.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Me trying to help my ballet kids.
I love that.
And that's the thing. It's like that was me in a room because I sent a video to my ballet kids of me doing the dance. And I could have posted that video to my Instagram like, look, I'm a good dancer. But I don't know. I think especially right now, everybody needs some time to like look at someone else being like, hey, I'm an idiot. So other people can be like, oh, me too.
Yeah.
Before
so people can relate.
Sorry, go for it.
Go get it.
Well, I want to say before we wrap up, do you have anything you want to share with our audience? The things you couldn't talk?
No, I think I said a lot of things. One thing I would just like to say in general is, support trans artists, support Black trans women, give them actual financial money if you can because they need it. Stay in your houses, stop breathing on people at the grocery store, and go to thesavageseconds.com and see what's happening there by the Daniel Giorgio Dance Group. Ooh, a little self-plug there.
Okay.
Yay.
Do you want to self-plug a little more? Just like in 30 seconds, what is the Savage Seconds? Go.
Yeah, the Savage Seconds is a experimental dance opera art film, which will be going live at some time, maybe in June, for like a week, and it's just about blooming and about coming to age. It's about rich people and it's also about doing cool shit.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
To sing your cool shit.
If you watch it and you can figure out what it's about, go ahead and let me know. They're selling tickets because it's streaming. That it will be streaming by the Daniel Giorgio Dance Group, and the tickets are being sold by the Undermain Theater. But if you want a little more behind the scenes look, go to www.thesavageseconds.com. Do it.
Okay, there you go. Well, Colby, thank you so very much for sharing all of you and everything that makes you you.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking your time to tune into Dance Behind the Screen, a bi-monthly interview series where we go behind the screen to question process, product, and social media. Be sure to follow us on social media at KNOW Box Dance. See you next time, and don't forget to say no to the box.